Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for being here today. Here we go again. My questions are very short. They're involving Coal LSL or your interaction with Coal LSL. Is it true that the Coal LSL Annual Report for the financial year 2022-2023 states that no compliance issues were reported to the Minister?
I know Coal LSL will be appearing later tonight.
Yeah.
I'll just check whether we're in a position to answer those questions now, or whether we might need to deal with them later.
Greg Manning, Deputy Secretary of Workplace Relations Group in the department. We're just waiting for one of our colleagues to come from the waiting room downstairs, Senator. But
Chair, could I just clarify? Has the committee dismissed our cross-portfolio?
No. We've just got these questions down that are in cross-portfolio, and then we're going to get to that after Senator Roberts. But I'm indicating that is what is likely to happen, but I just want to go through the steps first.
Okay. And so this is the Outcome 3 Workplace Relations Group who have joined us at the table.
We continue?
We're just trying to be efficient with time, regardless, because of the conversations with Senator Roberts, rather than having a long, drawn-out conversation about it. So thank you for being understanding.
Do you need the question repeated?
No, I don't. Just while our colleagues join us from downstairs, Senator, I don't know the answer in relation to the annual report completely, in relation to any qualifications, but as I understand it, Senator, there was none in relation to Section 83 of the Constitution.
Okay, thank you. I'd now like to take you to page 101 of the Department of Education and Workplace Relations Annual Report 22-23, and I quote the following. Coal LSL has identified it may have mistakenly received levy payments from entities that do not meet the definition of employer for the purposes of the Coal Mining Industry Long Service Leave Administration Act 1992. If so, payments... So I think that should be the end of the quote. If so, that means payment of amounts equivalent to the levy by the Department to Coal LSL in relation to those entities would likely have been made in contravention of Section 83 of the Constitution.
Yeah, and that was the point I was getting to, Senator, in the sense that because of the way the money is collected under that scheme, that a levy that's collected is done by Coal LSL acting as an agent of the Commonwealth, because only the Commonwealth can levy taxation, and then goes into consolidated revenue, and then the same amounts go back out to allow Coal LSL, no longer acting as an agent of the Commonwealth, to pay money for the purposes for which it exists. So in the circumstances of Section 83, it would technically be the Commonwealth, as represented by the Department of Employment and Workplace Relations, who, if there is a breach, has committed that breach. So that's why it's in our annual report.
Thank you. And I guess I'm concerned because they collected... what you've said in your report is accurate, I presume. Coal LSL has identified it may have mistakenly received levy payments from entities that did not meet the definition of employer. So they shouldn't have taken that money.
My understanding, Senator, is there is a small small number of employers who are not national system employers, and so for whom the levy shouldn't have been collected from.
Yeah, thank you. Coal LSL has assured the department that it is conducting further investigations to confirm how many entities may have incorrectly paid the levy and quantify any corresponding amounts that have been paid by the Commonwealth without a valid appropriation. That's a quote from your report, apparently. So it looks like the money has been collected from individual entities by Coal LSL, sent to you, and then it's gone back as a lump sum. Is it true that the information relating to the coal, you have confirmed that the information relating to Coal LSL and the DEWR annual report is correct? So
that's our understanding, Senator. But I might just see my colleagues who have now been able to join us have anything to add to that, because as I understand it, the issues are still being worked through between the department and Coal LSL.
Senator, I'm Stuart Kerr. I'm the Assistant Secretary from the Bargaining and Coverage Branch in our Workplace Relations Legal area. So what my colleague Mr Manning has said is correct. So our understanding is that Coal LSL may have mistakenly received levy payments from employers that do not meet the definition of employer under the scheme. Mr Manning, I think, has correctly described the money flows. So essentially the amounts collected by Coal LSL flow in and out of the Consolidated Revenue Fund through the department. And that's a very, that's the standard approach for taxation revenues that all go into CRF. And as a result, that's led to a Section 83 breach that we have disclosed in our annual report. So all of that's correct.
Thank you. I find Mr Manning's usually pretty correct. So.
Indeed.
Thanks, Senator. And I'm always appreciative of the confirmation I got it right today. It's always good to know.
And you weren't even nervous while he was saying it. You weren't waiting on the edge of your seat. How did the department become aware of these serious issues when it was not identified in Coal LSL's annual report?
I believe we became aware of it in the context of considering some legislative amendments to the scheme.
Thank you. When was the breach first detected?
I believe it was in April 2023, Senator.
Who identified the likely breach of Section 83 of the Constitution, and was it Coal LSL or DEWR?
No, it was the department.
What is the outcome so far of the investigation into this matter?
So, Senator, the department's been working with Coal LSL to seek to clarify the scope of the problem. I understand that Coal LSL has undertaken some assurance activities to review the current active registered employers to identify affected entities, which is not an entirely straightforward
No, nothing
endeavour.
much is straightforward in Coal LSL.
No, indeed. But as part of that review, Coal LSL has updated its records and introduced some new procedures to mitigate the risk of new ineligible employers being onboarded. From the department, and probably Coal LSL is best placed to speak to that later.
We will be tonight.
Indeed.
Yeah, thank you.
But from the department's point of view, we're working closely with Coal LSL and other relevant Commonwealth agencies to try and clarify the scope of the issue and settle a way forward to resolve it.
So you're still clarifying the scope?
That's correct.
Thank you. How was it detected? You said while doing some legislative enhancements?
Yeah, so the department was considering some potential legislative amendments to the scheme.
To the Coal LSL legislation?
Yes, correct.
What year? 23?
2023, yeah.
Okay.
And in the course of that, we were considering the operation of the scheme and uncovered this issue.
Well, thank you for your diligence. What checks and balances does the department have in place to confirm that the payroll levy taxes collected are true and correct?
So the department has obtained legal advice in relation to this matter, but to a large degree we rely on the information provided by Coal LSL with respect to the amounts of levy collected. The Commonwealth role here is really, as we're required to do under, I think, Section 36 of the Coal Administration Act, to withdraw amounts equivalent to the levy collected by Coal LSL out of CRF and to pay it back to them, with the effect being that the amount collected ultimately ends up in the Coal LSL fund. So from the department's point of view, we rely quite heavily on the information provided by Coal about those amounts.
So what is DEWR doing to remedy this breach? I know you've said you rely a lot on Coal LSL, I understand that.
In terms of the consequences of a Section 83 breach, Senator, this is dealt with in some guidance put out by the Department of Finance. And essentially, what an entity is required to do if concerned that an appropriation may have been spent in breach of Section 83, is to conduct an appropriate risk assessment, which may include legal advice, which we have done, and also to undertake a Section 83 breach disclosure, which we've also done in the annual report that you just referred to.
But there's not much you can do in regard to preventing it happening again.
I think I'd say, Senator, we're working closely with Coal LSL and other Commonwealth agencies, including the Department of Finance, to confirm which employers and employees have been affected, and the options for addressing these.
Okay. Perhaps, Minister, was this, I'm asking for an opinion now, was this disaster another example of Coal LSL's incompetent at best, or an indication of the loose way that Coal LSL uses other people's entitlements? And that has not started since Labor came into office. That's preceding Labor's coming into office.
Well,
I'm heartened by what Mr Manning and Mr Kerr have said.
Yeah. I think technically we can't give opinions, but...
Ministers can, that's why I asked the Minister.
Me have opinions? No, look, we support the work of the Coal LSL agency. Obviously, the department's taken you through a range of issues that are being considered, and we're supportive of that work as well.
Well, it seems to be DEWR has done its due diligence and done the job. So I'm just very concerned because Coal LSL, at its core, the key issue in Coal LSL, we exposed that in 2019, took a long time for the government to say, OK, we finally agree with you. Took a lot of things to come out, but Coal LSL, I'm not sure that it's been fixed yet. Thank you, Chair.
Good, thanks.